10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3.
The 1890s in Aspen. It was the silver miners who were Aspen's first skiers, using homemade skis and a single long pole for controlling speed. Transportation was the main goal of those early skis, and the climb-up, slide-down, no-turn technique persisted until the mid-30s. 1936 brought the first alpine skiers to Aspen. Inspired by the Winter Olympics in Garmisch, they were searching for high mountain meadows like they'd seen in the Alps. One of these was Ted Ryan.
Up a slithery red clay wagon road, former Aspenite T.J. Flynn had led Olympic bobsled champion Billy Fisk past the Midnight Mine to the back slopes of Richmond Hill. Billy, ecstatic about the scene around him, was soon to broadcast his message. "Ted," he said on the telephone, "I think we've got it." Land was optioned both sides of Ajax, and plans were laid to build a lodge at the junction of Castle Creek and Conundrum. The job was now to house qualified alpine experts, as well as people whose support and enthusiasm would help launch a proper ski area. Billy, sampling the texture of the snow, knew it was better than anything in New England or California. Meanwhile, 20 carpenters and a stonemason imported from Glenwood Springs rushed the completion of Aspen's first ski lodge before the snows grew heavy. There was a kitchen, dining room, living room, and 2 double-decker bunks to handle 16 visitors, while a magnificent stone fireplace provided central heating. The lodge was formally opened on December 26, 1936, with a group of visitors from Denver. Later visitors enjoyed Aspen's first ski lift, a 4-horse sleigh driven by the grand old man Bill Taggart. It was 50 cents a ride up to Little Annie, where they would don skins and climb to the top of Richmond Hill, bushwhacking down through Turtle Lot to Aspen, or skiing home for slalom practice on a slope which Billy and I had cleared by hand. But our real sights were on that big hill in our backyard, Mount Hayden. Along with its companion peaks, this represented a complex unequaled in this country and comparable surely to the Alps. We dreamed of a tramway system rising from the town of Ashcroft, a complete village there, and a network of trails dropping from the snow bowls above to the timbered valley below. A dream that was not to be realized.
Now, that same first season, Ryan and Fisk brought Andre Roach of Davos, Switzerland, in the back row center, to Aspen to do winter survey work and to locate a suitable development site. They worked with Frank Willoughby, a local miner and surveyor, and Roach concluded that the Aspen area, particularly Mount Hayden, was indeed the place. With the help of local people, he laid out Roach Run on Aspen Mountain. It was cut later that year. During those early seasons, a strange contraption called a boat tow took the skiers up the lower slopes above Aspen. Well, all was brought to a standstill by World War II. Members of the 10th Mountain Division of the U.S. Army came to Ryan's Valley at his invitation to train as ski troopers for service on the European front. But Aspen was too remote. and the 10th mountain finally ended up at Camp Hale across the mountains and near the railroad. However, so impressed were some of these ski troopers with the Aspen area that they eventually came back at war's end to settle permanently. Many even came to Aspen from Camp Hale on weekends to ski and to race. 1947, the war was over, and Aspen was well on her way to becoming America's first and foremost ski resort. Development centered on the slopes of Aspen Mountain rather than those of Mount Hayden. Billy Fisk had been killed during the war, and without Fisk, Ryan decided to shelve attempts to further develop his valley and Mount Hayden. And instead, he became an early stockholder in the newly formed Aspen Skiing Corporation. The big event of this period was the opening of the single chairlift to the summit of Aspen Mountain. Billed as the longest chairlift in the world, this ride, in 2 sections, rose over 3,000 vertical feet. At the same time, the famed Sun Deck warming hut and restaurant opened, providing an unparalleled view of Mount Hayden and the starting point for a long run down to town. Friedel Pfeiffer, who with Walter Pepke and others had formed the Aspen Skiing Corporation, organized the first ski school in Aspen, although he was not the first teacher of skiing in the area. That honor goes to Andre Roche, who taught here back in the 30s. Friedel demonstrates. Kids have always been a big part of the Aspen skiing scene, and training them to become racers has been part of that scene. The Aspen Ski Club, today the principal motivating force behind the kids' development, was formed back in the 30s as the Roaring Fork Ski Club, a mainly adult club that staged races for people in the valley. They even staged the National Alpine Championships back in 1941. Ski jumping became popular in Aspen with the construction of the Willoughby Jump in 1939. Designed by Andre Roche, the hill was popular early on, but Nordic jumping events never became of major interest in Aspen's skiing development. However, the alpine racing events did become big time in Aspen. The culmination of this interest was the hosting of the FIS World Championships in 1950. Racers came from all the alpine nations to compete in this old mining town that had discovered snow. The town grew, and so did the crowds. They came for the unsurpassed snow, the sun, and the ambience of an old mining town reborn. Aspen had become world-renowned. New restaurants, night spots, and lodges blossomed. Growth, a term now disparaged by many, was in its infancy. Along with this growth appeared a colorful annual event called Winter School. Started in 1951 by Jack DePoctor, a lodge owner, this outrageous winter carnival attracts many people to its varied activities. There were other big hills near Aspen that were to be developed. One of these, Aspen Highlands, just 3 miles from town, was cranked up for business in 1958 by Whipple Van Ness Jones. The area boasts the highest lift service vertical in Colorado, and until recently, the hairiest, scariest catwalk in the world, just below Loges Peak. Of course, one can't talk about the Highlands without mentioning Fred Island, certainly one of the most colorful men in the annals of ski history. He had been allied earlier with Friedel Pfeiffer in the Aspen Ski School, but later he headed up the Highland Ski School to the delight of absolutely everybody. Close by the Aspen Highlands was another smaller summit that seemed ideal for the beginner intermediate skier. Called Buttermilk Mountain, this area was opened in 1961 by Art Pfister and Friedel Pfeiffer. In 1964, the Aspen Skiing Corporation took over the operations and later expanded the hill into an area called Buttermilk West, and then into the tie-hack trails for the more advanced skier. It remains today as one of the finest teaching mountains in the world and a staging area for races, both professional and amateur. Now that Aspen Mountain was pretty well developed and Buttermilk tie-hack nearly complete, the Aspen Skiing Corporation turned its attentions to a sleeping giant some 10 miles from town called Snowmass. This area had already been popular for snowcat tours, but in 1967, it was opened by Bill Jantz and the American Cement Corporation as a full-fledged ski resort with its own town and residential areas. Today, Snowmass, less than half developed, is the largest of the 4 Aspen areas. Heading up Snowmass's ski school the first 2 years was world-renowned Stein Eriksen, who had just returned to the Rockies from Vermont. He had preceded Fred Island as the Highlands Ski School boss before that. Stein was especially good with kids. Ever since 1946, when it was founded by Friedel Pfeiffer and named after Andre Roche, the annual Roche Cup race has been one of Aspen's most cherished events. 1968 was particularly noteworthy in that the Roche Cup that year attracted the greats from all the Alpine nations. Returning for the race that year was Andre Roche himself. Who raced that year? Well, Jean-Claude Keeley, Billy Kidd, Spider Savage, Carl Schranz, Nancy Green, and Rosie Mittermeier. Kidd won the overall title and got his name on the coveted cup. 1976 was another big year for the Roche Cup, with the likes of Franz Klammer, again Rosie Mittermeier, Ingemar Stenmark, Gustavo Turney, and Aspen's Andy Mill, all fresh from the Innsbruck Olympics that same season. The Roche Cup had gained World Cup status. We're watching Andy Mill in the 1976 downhill. spring of 1968, that same year as the big Roach Cup race, another important event took place. It was Interski, a congress of ski instructors held once every 3 years. This was Interski's first appearance in America and attracted representatives from 17 nations who demonstrated their techniques high above Aspen on Turtle Knot Park. Meanwhile, down on the lower slopes, the local ski instructors were developing the means of introducing skiing to the handicapped. Local ski schools, as well as Aspen Bold, an organization founded by blind skier Jean Amer to teach sports to the blind, brought a new lease on life to these enthusiastic people with amazing results. The Aspen Ski School, now under the directorship of Kurt Chase, saw to it that the local kids were not neglected. A Saturday program of free instruction was instituted to teach these Aspenauts from walker to racer. Around the late 60s, the great interest in skiing in this country led to the beginning of the well-known amateur races called NASTAR, the National Standard Race, where all comers can test their skills against the clock. These races were first held in Aspen at the Highlands area, but their popularity caused them to be held later at all 4 mountains, with thousands participating each year. Also on the racing scene, a new type of race developed, this time for the professionals. The dual format pro races have become a regular event in Aspen, with racers such as Duvillard, Kashua, Odermatt, and the late Spider Savage competing for ever-increasing purses. Ski techniques developed along other lines also. None has been more spectacular than freestyle skiing. One of the forerunners of this movement was Ralph Jackson, Aspen's oldest and most famous ski bum. Here we see Ralph with aspiring hot dogger Jill St. John back in the 60s. The freestyle movement has come a long way since then, and Aspen slopes have become alive with his incredible insanity. Did the aerials stop here? Not at all. The real crazies took the air on wings, and the thin atmosphere above Aspen was filled with more delights to the eye. So where has all this madness led? Back to Ted Ryan's valley, where it all started 40 years before. Ashcroft Aspen, founded in 1971 by the one who came here in the 30s with a vision. It was a different vision now, but this time Ted Ryan's dream did come true.